all I want from my end is 8,000.
What I'm saying to you is you should give it to somebody that don't know any better, because that's a Fugazi, all right?
That's a Fugazi? How do you know it's a Fugazi? You looked at it for 2 seconds.
Well, it's a fake.
Yeah, I know what a Fugazi is.
The word for today is Fugazi. Fake, false, phony, bogus, counterfeit, fraudulent. Even the word itself is Fugazi. It's Italian-American slang. It's not even Italian. And, you know, yeah, you can tell me in the comments that in Donnie Brasco they say Fugazi. Okay, that's the Queen's accent. I'm using the Jersey accent. It's Fugazi. Forget about it. I like the word Fugazi. It's expressive. And the fact is that I found out that it's a fake word makes it even better, because that's what it's about. It's about being fake. And the reason I'm babbling about Fugazi is I want to talk about two Fugazi incidents that had tremendous resonance in the music world, and they're some 35 years apart. And I want to talk about the difference in reactions to the two things. Now, so set the Wayback Machine back to the late 80s and mostly 1990. Raise your hand if you remember Millie Vanilli. Millie Vanilli came basically out of nowhere, out of Germany, but they had huge hits. The album happened first in Europe, and then it got expanded, and they got picked up by Arista Records here in the States. And the record went on to have 5 singles and sold 7 million copies in the United States alone, sold 30 million worldwide. It was a huge record. And Millie Vanilli was presented to the world as these two guys, Rob and Fab. And I mean, you can't make that up, right? But actually you can make a lot of stuff up, because it turns out that the whole act was fabricated. No pun on the name Fab. The two front men were essentially dancers. And the producer did not care much for their singing voices, but he liked their looks and decided to make them be the face of this group that he named Millie Vanilli, which was kind of a take on Scritti Politti. They were presented as being the real thing, and they were everywhere because the record was huge. And they're touring all over, doing all kinds of live performances, videos. They ruled MTV, and they won a Grammy for Best New Artist in 1990. And then the news breaks that they were lip syncing all along, and that they weren't the guys who sang on the record. And it was the end of the world. The backlash was huge and immediate, and just overnight, the very word Millie Vanilli became a joke. And looking back on it, it seems like it was kind of harsh, because the two guys, Rob and Fab, took the brunt of it, and the producer basically, he went on and still had a career and lived to be 82, just didn't, died not too long ago. The backlash was enormous. The National Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences rescinded their Grammy, first time in history. They had to give the Grammys back. The album was deleted from Arista's catalog. They'd never done that before. I've never heard of any record deleting, to say, all right, this record does not exist anymore. And I'm sure that was probably on the advice of attorneys, because the next thing that happened was dozens of class action suits. It was basically a hoax. And I feel kind of bad for the two guys that took the brunt of it. their lives just went into a spiral. Imagine being thrown off that roller coaster when you're at the very top, and it's just like boom. They went from nowhere trying to bust into show business, then they're at the top, and then they're done in a second, just like that. And it's kind of sad because one of them took his life just went into a downward spiral of drugs and crime. And he wound up dying of an accidental drug overdose. And it, I would guess that it was all related to this roller coaster of one day being, this immensely successful pop star, the next day being an object of ridicule. It's pretty harsh, the reaction to Millie Vanilli. But it wasn't just the industry. It wasn't just Arista looking to protect themselves from lawsuits. They did have to pay out money to class action lawsuits. But it wasn't just the industry. It was the public. It was like, no way. We're not putting up with it. You telling me these guys didn't sing, and they were outraged. And it's really kind of odd when you think about it, because if you look at films, lip syncing has been a thing in films since the invention of sound. Natalie Wood is not singing in West Side Story, and everybody knows it. And it didn't end her career when that came out. It's just, people accept illusions from the movies because the movies are, they create entire worlds, but they want, or at least in 1990, they wanted their music to be authentic, And Millie Vanilli was completely contrived. It was a catchy pop record, and it was just a product, an assembled product. And so they were effectively done. Now, the next Fugazi incident, you can probably already guess, is this AI band that I think is a wonderful test case for Spotify and other YouTube and other streaming services to see what they can get away with using AI. The Velvet Sundown is they're not lip syncing because they don't have any lips. All right, there's nobody's singing.
No hay banda.
It's all computer generated.
There is no band.
And when I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, I kind of assumed that people would angrily reject this the way they did with Millie Vanilli. But it hasn't happened. And I've looked at a lot of videos on YouTube because everybody's talking about it. It's a big scandal, except if you read the comments of all these music influencers that are making videos about the AI band, the Velvet Sundown, people in the comments and listeners don't care. Nobody's up in arms about this. And in fact, I read a lot of comments by people who say, well, look, I use AI, I use Suno to put music to my lyrics. But it's, okay, yeah, you can type your lyrics into a text prompt, and then you can type in the tempo and the genre and the instrumentation, and if it's a male or a female singing or whatever, you can do all that. But how can you call that your music?
You didn't build that.
You didn't make that. The AI algorithm is using, it's been fed, it's been trained on the catalog of everything, of all the music we know. And it's never going to come up with anything new. It's never going to innovate. There's never going to be an AI-generated Charlie Parker or Miles Davis or Marvin Gaye, or it's never going to come close to that. It can't. All it can do is be a cliche machine. The other thought I had about this, about using AI, and people say, well, that's the only way I can make my music. Well, if you want to make music, you might want to consider learning how to play an instrument. Because as I said in this video, it's not that hard. If I can do it, you can do it. And don't whine about, I can't make my music without this AI software that didn't exist a year ago. If you want to make music, then sit down and learn a few chords. Pick up a guitar. Sit down at a piano. And you've got this platform, YouTube. You can learn to play anything on any instrument for free. Lessons abound. It's ridiculous. There's no excuses. So I don't buy that argument that that's the only way, that I can make music. But nonetheless, people are going to do this. Take the producer Timbaland. There's all these reports that he's developing a completely AI-generated artist named Tata. And why? I don't know. I mean, this guy's had all this success in the world. Is he just fed up with working with people? Does he want to keep all the money for himself? Why bother with this? I worked with AI generating software, video software. We were doing a program about retrospective of films about artificial intelligence that included Blade Runner and AI and a whole bunch of science fiction films. And the program director thought it would be fun to use artificial intelligence to create the promo for it, and to have the intros for the films be written by ChatGPT. And it was a cool experiment. It was a lot of fun. So I spent a lot of time and money using the program Runway. And the conclusion I came to is like, it's the same kind of thing. You trying to get what you want out of a text-prompted AI tool is like playing a slot machine, because you buy credits, or you're on a plan that gives you so many credits a month, and then you carefully write your text prompt, and it's like a slot machine. You submit it, and you wait for it to generate it, and you go, no, that's not it at all. And then you got to think, why didn't it understand? And you got to rewrite your whole thing and hope that it comes up with it. And this thing being out of the bottle, people are not going to reject it. It doesn't seem like people care. So I'm not going to worry about it either. I'm going to go about my business. It's kind of, slightly ironic for me to speak out about it, because I use technology to make my music. I play Fugazi guitar. I use drum machines. So, I use technology, and it's all just tools. And so you could say that the AI is a tool too, but it's skeezy, and it doesn't have passion. It doesn't, I don't know. Nobody cares. So I'm done talking about it. I'm going to mind my own business. And the last thought on this is that, ironically, when I was refreshing my memory about Millie Vanilli, and I'm looking at YouTube, the comments for Girl You Know It's True were all about, isn't it horrible how the industry treated Rob and Fab? And they shouldn't have been treated like that. And yeah, they did get treated a little harshly, but they knowingly deceived people as well. But it's curious that for all the outrage there was against Millie Vanilli in 1990, there's very little against something that's completely fabricated. Because at least with Millie Vanilli, you had human beings writing the songs, arranging the songs. There's real drums on the songs and guitars and stuff like that. People did sing it. It wasn't the dancing guys in the videos. So that was the scandal, that they weren't the singers. They were They were Millie and Vanilli, Rob and Fab. But it's weird that there was a huge backlash, and they were ostracized and cast out. But now we have something that's totally fake, 100% can be just typed up on your phone and sent off to Suno. And what, are they going to come up with a hit record? No, it's going to be some mediocre bullshit. But everybody's fine with that. And I'm sure Daniel Ek is just thrilled because now he doesn't even have to hire musicians to make him phony artists to pad his playlist with. Because so many people are into the lean back thing. I just want my chill playlist for, you know, this is my study playlist. And I don't want to be distracted. So they don't notice when they slip in the Fugazi. The whole world's going to be Fugazi. Forget about it. All right. Next week, I'll go back to talking about music. Thanks for listening. Hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you next time. Arrivederci.
Girl, you know it's true.